In this video, we're going to show you how to diagnose a TiPX that will puncture a cartridge and not fire after the cartridge has been punctured. So we're first going to set this off to the side, and we'll bring in our main firing valve, and we'll also bring in one of the bent pins. Here's our main valve and also our firing valve of the TiPX. One thing you want to check for is a bent firing pin. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see this one has a slight bend to it. And we'll pull this one out of the back end of the firing valve. And you can see how nice and straight that one is in comparison to this one. If you have a bent firing pin like that, what will happen is most of the time you can put it back into the firing valve and it won't completely seat to the bottom of the firing valve. So you always want to make sure that your pin always seats at the bottom of the firing valve. One thing that I usually check for as well is the brass nut on the back side of the firing valve. You also want to make sure that this is nice and snug. You don't want to over torque it. You just want to snug it up, make sure it's nice and tight, and then put your firing valve back in. Your firing pin. You want to make sure you put your firing pin back in and that it seats completely at the bottom before you reinstall it. Another thing that you can check for is the spool on the inside of your air valve. Sometimes this spool on the inside of the air valve can stick, and that will also cause it not to fire. Most of the time it'll stick in the backward position and cause it to leak down the barrel or down the magazine. So you want to make sure that you have this well lubricated just to help ensure that it doesn't stick. You also want to make sure that your power tube is nice and tight on your air valve assembly. It has two flat spots, which are kind of hard to see. Maybe I can get it turned right there. You have two flat spots on the power tube to where you can get your wrench on there and make sure it's nice and snug. And that is how you diagnose the TiPX not firing a shot after the cartridge is punctured.